Hello, hello. If you're comfortable singing with us, we're going to sing the breath of God, and you're more than welcome to sing along. The breath of God is breathing me and rested in the breath of God. I know that all is well. The grace of God is grace in me, and resting in the grace of God, I know that all is well. Let's repeat that, the grace of God. The grace of God is grace in me, and resting in the grace of God, I know that all is well. The joy of God. The joy of God is joy in me, and resting in the joy of God, I know that all is well. Let's do that again, the joy of God. The joy of God is joy in me, and resting in the joy of God, I know that all is well. The love of God. The love of God is loving me, and resting in the love of God, I know that all is well. Let's do that again. The love of God is loving me, and resting in the love of God, I know that all is well. The breath. The breath of God is breathing me, and resting in the breath of God, I know that all is well. All is well. All is well. All is well. Last time. All is well.
Good morning. Truly, we do know that all is well. Thank you for those of you who got out on this unexpected snowy morning to join us here in person, and welcome to those of you who are staying home in their jammies with their cup of coffee this morning. I have some jealousy in that regard today. So thank you for joining us, all of you, and know that this is a place of welcome. It is a place of acceptance. It is a place in which you are affirmed as the child of God that you are, in whom God is most well pleased. So know that whomever you are, wherever you come from, whatever your spiritual path, you are welcome here as one of this spiritual community. Let's join together in our opening statement together. There is only one presence and one power in my life and in the universe. God, the good, omnipotent. Let's affirm that together, and let's really be intentional about what we're saying, that there is truly one presence and one power. There's nothing opposed to God in our lives, and certainly as we know and affirm that, there's a sense of joy, faith, and trust and hope that we experience in the midst of any challenging circumstance. So let's affirm this again. There is only one presence and one power in my life and in the universe. God, the good, omnipotent. And so let's stand and sing.
I think we've got all the words on this time. Sorry about last week. I might be halfway through this valley, and my eyes just can't see the great way out. And it might seem life's got it out for me, like I'm in way too deep, but I have found every single circumstance I can place in greater hands. I won't let my trouble get me down. I've got joy down in my soul, I'm gonna take it everywhere I go. Not gonna worry about what I don't know, I'll be alright as long as I've got joy here in my heart, waving like a torch, lighting up the dark. In the jet black night, I'm gonna see the stars. I'll be alright as long as I've got joy. Joy, joy. I'll be alright as long as I've got joy. So I'll just cast my cares, won't sink into despair. I won't find answers there, only doubt. Every single circumstance I can place in greater hands. God, I know you'll never let me down. I've got joy down in my soul, I'm gonna take it everywhere I go. Not gonna worry about what I don't know, I'll be alright as long as I've got joy here in my heart, waving like a torch, lighting up the dark. In the jet black night, I'm gonna see the stars. I'll be alright as long as I've got joy. Joy, joy. I'll be alright as long as I've got joy. It's gonna be my strength, be my truth, gonna light the way, see me through, gonna be my hope, be my shield, gonna lift me up no matter how I feel. It's gonna be my strength, be my truth, gonna light the way and see me through, gonna be my hope, be my shield, gonna lift me up no matter how I feel. It's gonna be my strength, be my truth, gonna light the way and see me through, gonna be my hope, be my shield, gonna lift me up no matter how I feel. 1, 2, 3. I've got joy down in my soul, I'm gonna take it everywhere I go. Not gonna worry about what I don't know, I'll be alright as long as I've got joy here in my heart, waving like a torch, lighting up the dark. In the jet black night, I'm gonna see the stars. I'll be alright as long as I've got joy. Joy, joy. I'll be alright as long as I've got joy.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Got everybody on this side of the room. This is where all the sunlight is. So, welcome. My name is Laura Mead, and I'm happy to share a few announcements and get us started here today. Our first announcement is really exciting. Join your UCR friends on Thursday, February 17th, as we tour the African American Museum of Iowa for celebration of Black History Month and Iowa Civil Rights exhibits. We'll meet at the museum at 3 p.m., and the museum is located at 55 12th Avenue Southeast, Cedar Rapids. That's right before you go on the bridge downtown there. If you plan to attend, please email minister@unitycr.org or sign up today in the foyer just outside there, and admission is free. Another cool thing, we are so just ahead of the curve here. I love this. Join Reverend Debra for the Band Book Club. This is a monthly conversation. Yeah, isn't that cool? Yes. This is a monthly conversation that will examine the main thesis of a recently banned book, as well as the points of tension it uncovered in our current culture that led to its removal from libraries and school curriculum. Many banned books address or portray racism, homophobia, and injustice, or confront certain religious beliefs. The first conversation will center around the book, The 1619 Project by Nicole Hannah-Jones, and it will take place on Thursday, March 10th at 6:30 p.m. in Sacred Grounds on Books. Bring your open minds and hearts, and a Zoom option is available, so sign up for the book club in the foyer right next to the African Museum tour. So both of those are out front there. And I have one more quick announcement here that just came in here. Let me just get it up. This was get this bigger. There we go. There is a climate strike at the Capitol. The Iowa Capitol climate strike is on Monday, February 21st at 2 o'clock, and it's organized by a 14-year-old Lillian Hill, and she's asking for support. And if you need more information, see Ann Lulia over there in the corner. So I'll let you follow up with that. That's a week from tomorrow. And finally, today, if you have a prayer concern, our prayer room partners are Jan Griffith and Susan Liddell, waving back there. They are here to support and pray with you. Susan is also our Sunday assistant, so if you have any questions or requests for assistance, please share them with her or to any member of the Board of Trustees. And before we do our statement of purpose, which is next, please turn off your cell phone, just so we don't have any interruptions. I'll do it too. And now you can join us in our statement of purpose. Unity is a positive path for spiritual living. An experience of spirit. Unity CR, we offer practical teachings that empower abundant and meaningful living. Meeting you right where you are, we endeavor to provide a variety of ways to support your path of spiritual living. Our mission is to provide spiritual awareness and share the wonder and joy of God's love. And now for our daily word. The daily word for today is compassionate. In periods of peaceful contemplation, I immerse myself in the unconditional love that joins the human family together in God. As the awareness of divine love fills my mind and heart, it dissolves all memories of difficulties and feelings of discord. Centered in divine love, I deeply feel my oneness with God and with all people. I now see the people in my life anew. Beholding the divinity of each dear one I meet, my heart overflows with empathy as I respond to their troubles and celebrate their triumphs. I am patient. I listen with intention. I recognize their divinity as I recognize my own. I welcome the flow of divine love as it blesses me as well as those with whom I am sharing my compassion. And the Bible verse is from Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against any of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord.
So we're going to continue that feeling of compassion for each other with this song, a blessing song. And to start it, if you're comfortable standing, please do. And I'm gonna say this blessing. It's the four corners. One way to say the four corners blessing. So we're gonna start standing if you're comfortable. Face the east. That's me. So this is east. I hope I'm right about this. East, south, west, north. So as I say the blessing, your face those different things. And then when you face back front again, Angela and I and the band are going to sing this blessing to you while you receive it. And then you are going to sing it with us again, the four corners on the repeat. And when you do that, I hope you get an idea in your mind of somebody you want to bless with this blessing. So, okay, so it starts at the east. You can hold your hands out to receive the blessing if you're comfortable doing that, whatever you're comfortable doing. May the eastern breezes bless you. Lift your spirits, make them shine. Now turn to the south. May the southern sun shine on you, warm your heart, and help you try. Turn to the west. May the western waters cleanse you, washing over all you feel. Turn to the north. Northern earth, be yours to stand in, ground you so you know what's real. And then we'll sing this first part, so we'll put it to the melody. May the eastern breezes bless you, lift your spirits, make them shine. May the southern sun shine on you, warm your heart and help you try. May the western waters cleanse you, washing over all you feel. Northern earth be yours to stand in, ground you so you know what's real. So we're going to sing that again, same part. Get somebody in your mind you would like to bless. May the eastern breezes bless you, lift your spirits, make them shine. May the southern sun shine on you, warm your heart and help you try. Go ahead and sing with us. The western waters cleanse you, washing over all you feel. Northern earth be yours to stand in, ground you so you know what's real. Now we're going to sing this part 2 times again. The overall be strength and beauty. Overall be strength and beauty, food and friends and music fine. Work your love and pleasant duty, love to make your spirit shine. All of these I wish upon you, multiply them 3 times 3. Draw a circle all around you, and forever blessed be. Go back to overall. Overall be strength and beauty, food and friends and music fine. Work your love and pleasant duty, love to make your spirit shine. All of these I wish upon you, multiply them 3 times 3. Draw a circle all around you, and forever blessed be. All of these Be still, be still, be still, and know that I am God.
Be still. Be still and know. Be still and know that God is God in you. Feel relaxed. Allow, as you pay attention to your breath and your breathing, to allow just tension and stress and strain and concern to fall away. Feel a sense of ease and peace moving through you from the top of your head to the soles of your feet, anchoring you in this moment, in this time, in this place, and in that spiritual space that is within you, that holy and sacred sanctuary. Say to your mind, to your thoughts, be still, be still. Be still and know that God is light. A light that guides you and leads you, blesses you with discernment, illuminates your heart and mind, guides your steps, brings certainty in the face or the experience of confusion. Be still and know that God is light, illumination, quickening within you that which is yours to do, that which is yours to say. God is light, and you are one with this divine light, and you are light. Be still and know that God is life, a life that heals you, a life that is quickened within every cell, every molecule, every atom of your body, making you every whit whole. This divine life animates you. It transforms you, it heals you. Be still and know that God is life. Be still and know. Be still and know that God is love. A love, a divine love that heals anything unlike itself. A love that brings forgiveness and peace and mind and heart and emotions. God is love. And that love connects and binds us all together, heart to heart and soul to soul. Be still and know that God is love. Be still. Be still. Be still. And as you rest in this moment of silence and quietness, again, be still and know that God is light. Be still and know that God is life. Be still and know that God is love. Be still. Creator God, we thank you for reminding us that in the stillness you are present. In the stillness we are one with your life, your light, your love. In the stillness you are made known to us. And remind us that we are created in your image and in your likeness. That we are light, that we are life, that we are love. Thank you, God, for reminding us that wherever I am, wherever I stand, wherever I play, wherever I work, wherever I breathe and move and be, wherever I sing or dance, that you are that which expresses, plays, breathes, dances through us. For reminding us that wherever you are, there is joy. And as we become fully aware of those around us, we send a blessing to those to the left, to the right, those behind us and in front of us. And we send a blessing into our community and to our world, quickening within all that we meet, reflecting to them divine light, divine life, and divine love. And for this we are grateful, and for this we say thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is, and so it shall ever be. Amen.
Where I am, God is, and where I stand, God is standing strong. Where I breathe, God is breathing life in and out and through me. Ask me, and where I sing, God is, and where I dance, joy lifts my feet. Where I live, beauty's flowing free in and out and through me. Ask me, for where I doubt, God is the faith in me. And where I cry, God is the comfort there. And where I seek, God is the answer. Here and now, forever and ever and ever. And where I speak, truth is. And where I work, love is my career. And where I play, God is playing boldly in and out and through me. As me. Oh, do 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 do. pray and take and give and live. God is. God is. God is. Oh, God is.
There I am. Maybe. There we go. So, like I was saying, if the Bengals win, I certainly won't be sad. So, and tomorrow's Valentine's Day. So, yay. Well, this 3 weeks, beginning last week, we began a series on the book called The Book of Joy, which is an author has written down sort of the experiences of a conversation that happened in Dharamsala, India, between the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Tutu, who was there to help celebrate the Dalai Lama's 80th birthday. And I love this. This is the Dalai Lama picking up the Archbishop at the airport. I love that picture. But I'm going to show you a little video that I think helps us to understand the relationship between these two wonderful spiritual teachers and masters, but also the joy that they express together. There are lots of videos of Bishop Tutu dancing, and he's trying to get his friend, the Dalai Lama, to dance. And if you look at his face, he's sort of looking at the Archbishop like, what are you doing? And in the book, it's interesting, Bishop Tutu calls the Dalai Lama the more cerebral of the two, the intellectual of the two, which is interesting. But sometimes it's easy as we watch videos like that and see pictures of the two of them together to kind of look at them as a caricature of themselves. But what we are looking at is the maturity of their joy, right? Not only the joy in their relationship with one another, but also the joy that has guided them, that has steadfastly moved them through the most difficult times of their lives, right? So that's what we see. So the framing question of this conversation that these two spiritual leaders and teachers had was, how do we find joy in the midst of suffering? So that was the guiding question for their time together. But there's also another framing question that we talked about last week, and that is a question that the Archbishop asked the Dalai Lama, given the set of circumstances that led him to India and exile from Tibet. And he asked the Dalai Lama, as I shared last week, why aren't you morose? And another way that they explain it or describe it is, why aren't you a sourpuss? Why are you joyful? Because by rights, they would have every right to be morose, to be sad, to feel a sense of pain, particularly the Dalai Lama being exiled from Tibet. And yet, they both experience this sense of joy. And as we shared last week, joyful living is supported, created, defined by these characteristics, the ability to reframe our situation more positively. And that doesn't mean to get into a sense of denial, of toxic positivity, as I spoke about last week, where we deny that something's happening and just push it down inside of us or ignore it. No, it means that, yes, we experience whatever feeling we may be feeling, pain or anxiety or tension, but we begin to reframe the situation in a new and more positive light. As we say here in Unity, we begin to see the good in it. We begin to see where God is expressing in the midst of it. The second characteristic is our ability to experience gratitude, to be grateful, to have a grateful heart. And thirdly, our choice to be kind and generous, which truly encapsulates the character or the way that these two men express themselves in kindness and generosity. Not only a generosity within their friendship, but a generosity to others as well. Today we continue our conversation by asking this question: what are the obstacles to joy? These are fear, frustration and anger, sadness and grief, despair, loneliness, envy, and lastly, the fear of death. And let's look at each of these in turn. And I want to preface this with this statement, that all the things that I listed there are normal human reactions and responses. And so they are expressions, they are part of what it means to be a human being under the conditions of being human. But they become obstacles when they become all-consuming, when they become how we define ourselves only. And so in the book, the Dalai Lama and particularly Archbishop Tutu are very well aware of that. They clearly speak to the need to balance our emotions, to feel what we feel, but not get stuck or sucked into them so much so that we wrap them around ourselves and they begin to be the defining identity of who and what we are. So let's begin with fear. We have all experienced fear. All of us. We all have experienced it. It is a common, normal, human response to some outward stimulus. Now, in the book they quote Nelson Mandela, again, a great spiritual leader in South Africa, a friend of Archbishop Tutu. He said, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but triumph over it." Courage is not the absence of fear, but triumph over it. And the Archbishop said something very similar. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. The ability to act despite it. Not getting stuck into it so that it immobilizes us. Again, stops us from doing that which we are called to do, perhaps. Fear is the natural response to things at times, but if we become immobilized, frozen, then it becomes an obstacle to our experience of joy. Fear creates stress, worry, anxiety. It can also create a sense of fragmentation in our lives. And we feel the stress in our bodies too, and that can lead to all kinds of physical and emotional issues. I love how the book frames this or defines this. It says that stress, in a way, is our cells talking to our thoughts and our thoughts monitoring. The way to dissolve and dissipate fear is to acknowledge it, to face our fears, to feel them, and then to step out of the whirlpool of them, to take one step with courage and faith out of the whirlpool that seems to suck us in, to change the trajectory of our lives. Again, to feel the fear, but then keep moving. The second obstacle to joy is frustration and anger. Now, there's this great story in the book. The author of the book, the editor of this conversation, is in Jacksonville, Florida with Archbishop Tutu, and they are driving to a speaking engagement at a college. And Archbishop Tutu is driving, which a lot of questions about that. They're heading to a lecture. He's driving along, they're chatting, and a driver crosses several lanes in front of the Archbishop, who has to swerve the car not to miss him. And so the Archbishop simply says, wow, there are a lot of amazing drivers on the road. So he's reframing this experience with humor. And then he says, well, maybe they're late for something, or maybe they're on the way to the hospital for a loved one. And so again, he reframes it with compassion. He approached it with humor, with acceptance and compassion. He didn't linger with it. It was a passing moment. And when it was in the past, it was in the past, and they continued with their conversation and were well on their way to the university. He just let it pass through. He acknowledged it. He acknowledged the situation, but then it was gone. It was in the past. Well, I'm certain that's not how I would have handled that situation. I would have been on my phone with Dawn. You know what just happened? When I arrived at the office, I would have told Ruth, you wouldn't believe what happened to me on Edgewood over here. I love that idea of acknowledging, accepting, reframing, and moving on, letting the past be the past. The Dalai Lama tells the story of an old car that somehow this is when he was still in Lhasa in Tibet, and they'd gotten hold of this old car, and they had to take the car apart to get it up into the complex where the Dalai Lama lived. And so because it was an old car and because maybe they didn't put it back together right, it was always breaking down. And so the man who was trying to fix it one day so that they could go somewhere couldn't not get it started. And so he kept hitting his head against the car over and over again. And isn't that the situation or the experience that we have when we are frustrated and angry? It's sort of we just keep hitting our head over and over again. Hitting our head into a wall again and again and expecting a different result. And that's the definition of something, as we know. So we can do something new. Acknowledge the frustration. Acknowledge the anger. Allow it to pass through us. Let it go. The book describes anger as the response to unmet expectations, the ones that we place on ourselves and the ones that we place on others. And sometimes our anger becomes a fortress that we build around ourselves so that we don't get hurt again. But it's important for us to acknowledge the anger, to feel it, and the fear that is underneath it. Now, the Archbishop makes a very important distinction about our general frustration and anger and righteous anger or righteous indignation. The difference he makes is that righteous anger has nothing to do with our personal unmet expectations, but it is a response to seeing someone else or a group of people harmed. And he calls this righteous anger a tool for justice. Now, we need look no further than the life of Jesus to see righteous indignation and righteous anger when he cleared the money changers in the temple who were cheating the people who came there to make their offerings. We see this righteous anger. However, he warns that anger can destroy us as well, and it can also destroy our calm mind. There's a story in the book about a man named Paul who could care less about the Dalai Lama. He had no opinion about him one way or the other, but his daughter was a great fan, and so he took her to visit him, to see him at an event. Now, Paul had an abusive father, and his mother committed suicide when he was young. And he called himself a rageaholic. So that anger and that pain and those memories of abuse and the suicide of his mother erupted from within him as an adult. He says, usually on a weekly basis. When he met the Dalai Lama took his hands, Paul's hands in his own, and he looked at him lovingly in the eyes. And Paul said he felt like the weight of that anger and that pain was lifted from him. The Dalai Lama's kindness, the generosity of his spirit, touched Paul so deeply that he allowed that anger and that pain to come up from within him. And he began to do the work that he needed to do to heal it. And I think that we're all called to do that. We're all called to be those healers, to allow ourselves to do the work that's necessary to heal our hearts and minds, to be that joyful, kind, generous presence in the world that can look in the eyes of another and help them begin to release their pain and their anger. The book reminds us, if we are to overcome and heal, we need to map our emotional terrain. We need to map our emotional terrain. But it also reminds us that it is important to discover our role in creating the situations that upset us. What is our role? And as we begin to take that deep dive within ourselves, to do it safely, then we begin to map that emotional terrain that causes these upsets, these flashes of anger and frustration within us. It's important that we do that work, to love ourselves as generously and as kindly as we would love others. This brings us to our third obstacle, sadness and grief. The Archbishop says, shout out your grief. All of us experience grief. There's not a person in this room who has not experienced some level of loss in their lives. Shout it out. Don't lock it away. And know that your sadness and your grief can create a spirit of empathy and compassion for others. We become what Henri Nouwen called wounded healers. Wounded healers. In that our wound is healed or healing, but we have a memory of it in our awareness. And so we have an empathy with those who are also experiencing sadness and grief. And we can be that spirit of kindness and generosity and love and healing for them. And it isn't the emotion itself that becomes an obstacle to joy, but it is how we direct it and how we express it that does. If we keep pushing it down inside of ourselves and fail to acknowledge it, to feel the feeling, then it becomes an obstacle for this wellspring of joy to flow through us. The Archbishop says that grief is a reminder of love. And there's a Buddhist story that the Dalai Lama shares in this section. A woman whose young son died, took the lifeless body of her son to the Buddha and asked her to raise him from the dead, to heal him, to bring him back to life. And the Buddha said, I will do that, but you have to do something too. And to make the medicine that is necessary to revive your son, I need mustard seeds. So go get mustard seeds. But there is something that's important, or it won't work. You need to gather mustard seeds from the homes of those who have never experienced grief in their lives. And so, in her hopefulness, she went from house to house to house to house. And you will know the end of the story. She could not find a person who had not been touched by grief. And so she took her son and she buried him. Every person in this room has experienced sadness and grief, every one of us. And that is a natural, normal response to loss. And grief isn't linear. We talked about this in our book study the other day. It isn't something that starts here and ends here. It is something that we experience over and over and over and over again. Grief isn't linear. It returns to us to remind us of those we love from time to time. But don't let your grief harden into something, into bitterness, that causes you to put a barricade around yourself so that you do not love again. That you don't let the hurt in again, because it robs you of your joy. Don't let your deep grief lead you to the next obstacle, which is despair. Desmond Tutu says, get mad at God. Anybody else been mad at God? I figure God's big enough to take it. Get mad at God. Desmond Tutu says he did. But in the midst of despair, feel the sadness, but have a holistic view. As the book reminds us, remember the good things as well, and be grateful, be hopeful. And I love what the Archbishop says about hope. Hope is different from optimism. Optimism is sometimes superficial. It can lead to that toxic positivity that I spoke about. But hope is much deeper. Hope knows the storm will pass. It is the response to a deep and abiding faith. And so in the despair of our grief, perhaps, there can still be that glimmer, that experience of hope that brings with it a sense of joy. When despair becomes an obstacle is when it hardens into something else, into cynicism. But hope keeps us open and fresh and allows that joy and that love that is God to express through us. And then loneliness. We can be lonely in a crowd, right? Anybody ever been lonely in a crowd? We feel a sense of loneliness when we feel disconnected. And often we feel a disconnection from God, from ourselves. We feel fragmented and alienated. But as we understand and know that we are connected, that we are one, that we are interdependent with each other, then we ease that sense of loneliness. But what we find is that trust is necessary to be able to experience that sense of connection. And I love this line from the book. When we recognize our oneness, then we see friends everywhere. Distrust and loneliness are linked. And I think if we look at all of these obstacles to joy, they are linked. They are layers of the same experience. You know, some of us are close to our families of origin, and some of us have created families of choice. I certainly have done that to some extent. I have an adopted daughter and son-in-law that I hope come to visit this spring, but there is every much a part of Don and our lives as my biological children. We have families of origin and we have families of choice. And as we choose to connect ourselves to others, as we trust and know that we might get hurt. But the risk is necessary if we are to experience joy and a sense of connection. We must create a sense of open-heartedness and warm-heartedness as an antidote for loneliness. And then envy. Jealousy destroys our peace of mind. We make unhealthy comparisons about ourselves, and we compare ourselves to other people. They're thinner than me, they have more money than me, they have a nicer house, they drive a better car. We make these interesting comparisons, and so we begin to feel a sense of unworthiness, as if we don't measure up. Because we don't have, we don't express, we don't look like, we don't possess the things that other people have. There is an antidote to this in the book. It is called mudita, which is a Sanskrit word that means sympathetic joy. And all that means is to rejoice in the success of others. Again, go back to that idea of reframing. Rather than feeling as if you aren't measuring up by comparing yourself to someone else, reframe it. Rejoice in their prosperity. Rejoice in their success and their good fortune. You know, there's enough for all of us. And this kind of envy and comparison with other people seems to claim that they have it, I can't. But that's not true. This comes from a consciousness of scarcity. Claim what is yours, but don't measure your worth by another's possessions or another's experiences or another person's relationships. Envy robs you of your peace of mind, and it robs you of joy. And lastly, the most striking one is the fear of death. According to the Archbishop and to the Dalai Lama, this is the greatest challenge to joy. We fear death sometimes so much that we don't live. In this culture, we have an interesting approach to death. It's rather sterile and distant at times, much more now than it was 3-4 generations ago. I read this great article recently about a group of siblings in North Carolina whose mother was in hospice care, who was actively passing away, who was making her transition, actively dying. And so they did some homework. They owned some land, a farm, and found that under North Carolina law that they could bury their mother in the home, on the farm, on their land, as long as they kept it a certain distance from the well and the septic tank. So, as their mother was actively passing away, 2 brothers who were woodworkers, with the gift of some wooden pickets from a neighbor, built her coffin. They lined it with her beautiful red comforter from her bed. And when she passed, they wrapped her up and they brought her home in the back of their Toyota Prius. They decided not to dig the grave until she had passed, and so while one stood vigil with their mother, they wrapped her in the comforter, they put wildflowers on her, put the lid on the coffin. They took turns standing vigil, but they also took turns digging her grave. And so, without benefit of clergy, with just family and the siblings, dirty from their work of digging, they stood and lowered their mother in the grave. And when I read that article, I was so touched by the gift of that experience. Tenderly caring for their mother, of being present to this experience of death, not sending her off to the mortician, but being present, tending to her lovingly. What a gift they gave to their mother, but also what a gift they gave to themselves. We anesthetize death so much in this culture, and I think it is because we fear it so much. But the Dalai Lama reminds us of the impermanence of this physical experience. In this section, he returns to a Buddhist teaching that I touched on last week. He reminded himself of it when he escaped Tibet in the grave danger of death. If there is a way to overcome the situation, then instead of feeling too much sadness, too much fear, or too much anger, make an effort to change the situation. But if there is nothing you can do to change it, there is no need for anger or fear. And I certainly agree with that, but in the case of grief, it takes time to come to that place of acceptance. And I think the anesthetizing of death and the whole ritual of death and the process of death and dying that we have created in this culture blocks that experience of grief. Keeps us, perhaps, in this space of unacceptance, holding that grief too tightly to us. So on this Valentine's Day Eve, let's remember the ones that we love. Let's remember to honor them as they live, to honor them as they die, to honor them as the glorious beings of light and love and divinity that they are. Let's remember those who are no longer with us and allow their memories to bring us great joy. And let us remember also to feel whatever feeling arises from within us. Begin to reframe it. Begin to see it as a response to having deeply loved. Release it and let it go. God bless you.
Okay. Probably all know this song, so don't feel shy about singing along, okay? How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. The shelter of someone's arms, there you were. Needed someone to understand my ups and downs, there you were. With sweet love and devotion, deeply touching my emotion, I want to stop and thank you, baby. I just want to stop. Thank you, baby. Oh, yeah. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. I close my eyes at night, wondering where I would be without you in my life. Everything I did was such a bore. Everywhere it went, it seemed I'd been there before. But you brightened up for me all of my days with a love so sweet in so many ways. I want to stop and thank you, baby. I just want to stop and thank you, baby. Oh, yeah. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Just like sugar in my soul. How sweet it is to be loved by you.
You were better to me than I was to myself. For me, there's you and there ain't nobody else. I want to stop and thank you, baby. I just want to stop and thank you, baby. Oh, yeah. How sweet it is to be loved by you, just like sugar in my soul. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you.
Thank you, Angela. That was fun. That was great. Thank you. And now is the time to bless our tithes and offerings. So let's find that. You can take your love offering in your hand or in your heart or wherever you feel it in your heart, and say the blessing with me. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am grateful.
Oh. Is it time to sing? Yes, it is. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I am. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. Gratitude before me, gratitude behind me, gratitude to the left of me, gratitude to the right of me, gratitude above me, gratitude below me, gratitude within me, gratitude all around me. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I am. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
We take a moment now to bless the prayer intentions that have been lovingly shared with us. We know that God is at work within all those who have asked us to pray with them and for them, and that God is mighty in the midst of them to heal, to bless, and to prosper them. And we send forth these prayer requests knowing that all is well. And we dedicate and consecrate these tithes, these gifts, and these offerings to the will and the work and the way of the Christ as it expresses through this ministry of love and service. And so it is. Amen. And now let's stand and join together in singing, Let There Be Peace on Earth.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, my joyful vow to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
The light of God surrounds us.
I am the light of God.
The love of God enfolds us.
I am the love of God.
The power of God protects us.
I am the power of God.
The presence of God watches over us.
I am the presence of God.
Wherever I am, God is, and truly all is well. Happy Valentine's Day. Go Bengals.
Let's do How Sweet It Is.